Your individual style is very different from your crew members. Where do you get your inspiration or ideas to develop and progress?
So I definitely love my crew and their style, but at some point I did make a conscientious effort to not work within the confines of what was often considered my crew style. I get influences from everywhere. I think in like the early 2000s, I was looking at a lot of European graffiti writers through magazines and stuff, and they just had such a different approach to letter forms and to the way like they put the thick and the thin together that I liked experimenting, kind of borrowing some of their aesthetic. But then I don't limit where I get influence from. I definitely see some of my boys' letters and I think like, oh, if I freak this a little different, I think I can take this and make it my own. There's no limit to where I get my influence, I suppose. And I'm always trying to learn. There's definitely certain things I repeat and I spin off of, but I definitely like to explore and try to develop different ways of working.
At a certain point, AYER joins LTS. How does that come about? Is he also in KOG as well?
Yeah, I think AYER got into KOG and then LTS. He was from 29C. We're all at Fairfax High together. So it had to do with Retina being there and J-Rock being there and him just being such an active painter. So he was put into KOG first, but he exploded. He went out and crushed the 10, the 110, the 101. He had spots like in the valley all of a sudden right by my house. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you're up in my hood now? And he just had such momentum that right away they're like, oh, you got to rep LTS. And when he got in that crew, he went full force.
In your opinion, what contributions did AYER make to LA graffiti culture?
Yeah, AYER really elevated what was going on. At the time, I think just before AYER, the people that were the top of the graffiti game were people like Saber and GK, which were crushing the freeways and bridges and rivers with elaborate 2 or 3 color pieces, fills. They were doing so they had taken it from where like Euler was the guy before, Euler and Tulse. They were up everywhere and they were only doing 2 colors. So GK and Juice and Saber came around and they were doing 3, 4 colors and more elaborate spots. And then AYER came around and he started doing full color burners, full color pieces on those same spots. He started climbing downtown spots on Broadway, doing rooftops all over town, heaven spots, and it kind of elevated the competition. It's like, okay, well now he's doing full pieces. I think, in my opinion, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, somebody else might have a different opinion, he was the first guy to do full-on pieces in such high-risk spots. There were dudes like Saber and GK again. They were doing freeway spots, but they were doing a lot of stuff. I don't want to take anything away from them. Those guys are kings. They were doing bridges and stuff too, but I think AYER just did it a little bit. He took their work and springboarded like, okay, these are the guys I have to beat. These are the best guys. I want to do a little harder than them. I want to get a little crazier than them. And the rest of us just kind of took his influence and kind of just tried to catch up with him. As a kid, I think he did more than most of us did throughout the rest of our graffiti careers, which was so crazy. He was just so unstoppable and so fluid with how he did his work.
Did he always have the name AYER? Do you know how that name came about?
Pretty much as long as I knew him, he was AYER. He was AYER, A-I-R. And then it was when we were in high school at Fairfax that he changed it to A-Y-E-R, AYER, and then also A-Y-E-Z, AYEZ. I think it was just a style thing. I think he wanted to expand the name, and I think he liked playing with the letter E and the Y and interlocking those letters more. Just like when I threw the silent E at the end of my FISHE, it was a stylistic thing. It didn't really need it. F-I-S-H spells fish, but the E gave it a different balance, another letter to interplay with, and I think for him it was a similar thing. It made the name more dynamic.
What were the other writers in LTS and KOG's view on AYER? Would you guys speak about his progression?
You know, he was like the guy we were all trying to keep up with. So he was like the benchmark for what we had to do. Like I said, and he didn't only succeed and excel in graffiti, he was just kind of an all-around champion at everything he did. So he was the benchmark. He was like, okay, we have to keep up with him. You know, we were constantly trying to keep up with whatever he was doing.